Growmore also has a fantastic 3-part liquid nutrient, very similar to these guys who have a grow, micro, and bloom. They have a grow, micro, and bloom. And what we would like to show gardeners is a difference of 2 product lines. There's a number of customers that are using 3-part nutrients from companies such as Advanced Nutrients. It's called the Jungle Juice.
Jungle Juice, right.
Another one is Cutting Edge, local company, great company. Another nutrient line that's very popular, it's sold all around the world. 3-part is the General Hydroponics Flora series. Nobody bottles it and makes it for you. You guys do it yourselves because that's how they operate. We've been selling this quite a bit because customers are knowing it's a better price point than the other 3 parts. And it is. It truly is a better price point. Not just the price per bottle. The highest rate on their nitrogen is going to be 7, and that's like in your peak veg. Maybe you have mothers that you're getting ready to go full bore before you cut them, or maybe you have plants that are getting ready to go outside. But most of our gardeners are using this 5 mils per gallon if they are using the grow and they're not using the micro bloom independently. But here's the question you're going to ask yourself, well, what about the micro and bloom? What are their ratios? What are their percentages?
The way micronutrients work is that excesses of one depress another. And specifically phosphorus, which is an element that we as gardeners use very much in higher concentrations later on in the stages of flower and bloom development, actually depress calcium, magnesium, iron, and zinc. So what's happening is later on in flowering, we're actually depressing our levels of calcium and magnesium more. The plant's having a harder time taking it up, and then trying to supplement it with a separate calcium-based supplement has higher nitrogen. Because
your CalMag supplements are always going to have a lot of nitrogen.
And especially with the micro, in this instance, it's a 501. It does have a 5% calcium, which is great, but at the same time, a lot of growers are concerned about putting nitrogen in their plants later on in flowering. I'm not so concerned about that because I think that nitrogen as an element and an elemental parts per million argument definitely isn't used as much as the plant requires it. So some people say, well, the plant's dying, my leaves are yellowing towards the end, I don't care if they yellow. Nitrogen's a mobile element. There's mobile and immobile elements, right? So these elements can translocate throughout the plant when they're needed. So it being mobile, the younger leaves that are coming up at the top of the plant, the older leaves that are really lush and green, if there's a nitrogen deficiency later on in flowering that are being created, it's going to take the nitrogen from those older leaves and translocate it to the plant to those younger, newer leaves. And so what you find is some of the bottom leaves will start yellowing out. People have a real big issue. Well, it's typically because they're stripping their nitrogen. I guess what I will say is the benefits of running Growmore's 3-part over other competitors' 3-part is really threefold. A price point,
application rate, as we're stumbling upon right now discussing this.
Well, we find out too is, I guess as a gardener, I would, if the price was right and I had to put 15 mils of each thing in, then I would maybe understand that. But when I'm talking about using maybe a total of 15 mils for all 3
bottles combined,
and the price point's even less than
still less per bottle.
So you're talking about a third of the price. So if I'm spending $100 for this feed over the course of X amount of weeks, in this instance, I'm only spending 30 to 35.
And if you're a Jungle Juice customer, you're supporting actually an American-based, US-based company. You're not supporting a group of Canadians. So. Not saying that we don't like Canada, but if we can support local nutrient manufacturers first, that's our best foot forward as a nation. These can't be identical products, can they be?
No, they can't. And typically what I think Advance has tried to do with Jungle Juice was make the direct comparison to their GH product to say, look, we have an exact identical product to them.
That's what I've heard them say, identical product to the Flora series.
Now, if you look a little bit more deeper into the lab tests that have been done on some of these, the inconsistencies from batch to batch that GH has put out was rather startling, considering what the elements that they claim to have on the label and what actually were in from 3 different tests that were done on 3 different batches. Because we are a manufacturer and formulator in Southern California. We have 2 production facilities, and our chemists and our agronomists are located in one of our facilities with our lab. When we formulated our micro, we wanted it to be a little bit different and a little bit better than the competitors.
I noticed just by pouring it, it's a little different than the competitors.
And just so you know too, if any customers out there utilize our 3-part and they notice in the micro there's sometimes a little sludge in the bottom, these are all natural separation layers caused by the different molecular weights of the organic compounds that we have in here. That separation is natural and normal. Good shake and agitation. Upon dilution, all of the elements are soluble and fully dissolved. The 2.5 gallons and the new 6-gallon jugs that we're creating have definitely a higher propensity to do that.
We're comparing Jungle Juice from Advanced Nutrients and GH Flora series to Growmore's Micro.
All right, so the NPK of the micros is identical at 501, and it is pretty standard throughout most of the 3 parts. Now when you look at the 501, don't be fooled, because while the NPK is the same, it starts to get much different as we continue to go on. The calcium concentration is still 5%, which is the same, and the only other identical factor is the boron at a 0.01%. When we look at the copper, Growmore's copper has twice as much copper in it. Growmore has 4 times as much iron in it. Growmore has 4 times as much manganese in it. The molybdenum is actually required at much lower levels than plants and manufacturers for fertilizers actually require. So we actually have a little bit less molybdenum just due to certain toxicity issues and already existing elements in water, just similar to the boron. And also the zinc, we have 4 times as much zinc. So you're really looking at a micronutrient that has, for all intents and purposes, either twice as much or 4 times as much the micros within solution.
Now I know why their application rate is so damn high. They have to be in order to have the same amount of ingredients. But this is really important for you growers to know. It truly is. Now think about how important it is for the growers using RO water. Even bigger of a deal. You guys are adding CalMag and CalMag and CalMag. It's good to know that your micronutrients that you're stripping out of the water essentially are being more supplied with this product than the other 2.
Right, and then also a lot of people that are really 3-part faithfuls love the synthetic aspect of it. Well, actually our micro brings an organic element to it. Anytime we're gardening, we are missing out on certain elements when we're not growing in native soil. There are certain things that microorganisms can't digest. The root exudates that we've talked about in other videos aren't necessarily functioning at peak capacity, which does affect essential oil production, overall aroma, fragrance, the taste of the fruit, vegetable, flower at the end of its production period is sometimes lacking when you're growing in hydro. So what we're trying to do is add some of those organic elements that we're missing in hydro back into something as simple as the 3 parts. So we actually do have some added seaweed and other organic elements that are in it, which also get back to that sludge, so to speak, that maybe sometimes separates due to the natural differing molecular weights of those organic compounds. There's just tons of amino acids, vitamins, minerals, certain sorts of these ionic precursors like the IAA, IBA. These are plant growth regulators that aren't necessarily in the seaweed, but that the plants convert and use and uptake. Gibberellic acid, GA3 specifically, right? So while these are synthetic compounds that are regulated highly, they are broken down by the microorganisms and broken down in the media that are essentially available to the plant in another otherwise unavailable form.
So obviously we've shown that this is a superior micronutrient out of the 3 competitors that we've discussed, and it seems to me that at a better price point and a lower application rate, it's kind of a no-brainer to try it out.
Yeah, and in addition to the 3 parts going to be going over we have a new size available for our 3 parts, 6 gallons, to compete with the commercial growers that need those sizes to really effectively utilize the cheaper pricing and the ease of transportation for their fertilizers, in addition to some new labels, and the new feed charts are coming out with it that are a little bit different for the recirculating and for the drain to waste.
These base nutrients, I'm guessing, could be used with any other supplements on the market that are with another base nutrient that's similar to this.
True, and conversely, anybody that wants to use a 2-part nutrient base instead of a 3-part,
or they want to use a Lucas formula with the Growmore,
or they want to use a 1-part, basically any of our amendments can be incorporated into it. And that's kind of the benefit of the Growmore lineup, is most of these organic based supplements and biostimulants are able to be incorporated into any existing feed with any other base. So I mean, I have a cocoa grower that uses House and Gardens Cocos A and B, right? And that's just what they like, what they love.
Calcium built into it.
No problems with all. I'm not trying to sell you on a 3-part. You can try it out and see how it works. He's actually currently doing that right now, but he uses a lot of the other amendments. And so these organic elements that we're kind of missing in hydroponics in general are really taken care of when you're using Mendocino Avalanche, when you're using Biocozyme or our Jumpstart, a couple of our products that really won't fluctuate your ppms at all, so you can incorporate them into your mix.
Thank you, Jacob, for going over the Growmore 3-part with us today. And if you have any questions, you can contact us at Monster Gardens or contact Growmore.